You guys ever been to a real estate event and you listen to the guy presenting and he rambles on for a couple hours, and next thing you know you're leaving the event and you're all charged up and you're like, what the heck did he just say? I'm excited, but I didn't understand all of that. Well, today I'm Aaron Impens and we're going to go over some real estate vocabulary. Everybody knows it's got a good roof. The interior here is not. Okay, everyone. Real estate has a lot of jargon, you could call it, a lot of terms that go along that maybe non-experienced investors might not know what that means. So today, we're going to go over some of those terms. Some of them probably simple, some maybe a little bit more intricate, but I start to take for granted sometimes because I use these terms on a daily basis. You know, it's just repetitive for me and I understand what they mean. Well, I want to make sure that you guys also understand. That way you guys can follow along. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with the first one and probably the easiest one, real estate. Real estate. What does that mean? People are probably laughing at me right now. They're like, oh, we know what real estate is. And I'm sure you probably do, but let's just talk about it. Real estate is something that is tangible, okay? Something that you can hold, something that you own. It has value, okay? So let's talk about the value. What is the value made of? You know, what is real estate? Well, first off, obviously, we need a door. You're gonna have a house, okay? That's part of real estate, right? A property, a piece of property. This can be a single family home, it can be a commercial building, it can be a multifamily building, anything like that, something that's built on site, okay? Something built. So let's talk about this. What is this built on? Well, land. It's built on land, okay? So these two combined create real estate. Real estate. The land has a value, the property has a value. Combined together creates real estate, and combined together obviously creates the total value of what they're worth as well. I know, very simple, but figure we go over it anyways. Simple one. Okay, what do we got next? Let's talk about equity. What is equity? Well, equity is going to be the difference between what the value of the property is and what you owe on the property. Okay, so let's take this same house again. A little smaller this time. It has a value. Let's say this little house that looks like a hat is worth 100K. That's the value, okay? So let's say you have a mortgage on this property, on this house, and your mortgage is for $80,000. 80K mortgage. Okay, simple. So to find out your equity, like we discussed, it's the value minus what you owe, the mortgage. So 100 minus 80 is 20K equity. Pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward. Obviously, if you have multiple houses, you just do this on a larger scale. So let's say you had 5 of those houses. So now it's worth 500K. And you owe 400K, which obviously then translates into $100,000 worth of equity. Pretty easy, right? Pretty straightforward. Everybody understands? That's what equity means, okay? Again, let's say you didn't have a mortgage. What's gonna be your equity? You don't owe anything on the property. Well, again, it's the value minus what you owe. So if you don't have any mortgage or any debt against the property, you're gonna have 100% equity. So if that house is worth $100,000, no loan, you have 100% equity, $100,000. Okay, now that leads me into net worth. What does net worth mean? Well, net worth is going to be the total value of all of your assets minus the liabilities, okay? So what are assets? Let's talk about assets. In the real estate world, obviously, we know what assets are. I've drawn this house before. I'm gonna draw it again. We got a little house right here. That's an asset. What about cash in the bank? Absolutely, that's an asset as well. So we'll talk about cash in the bank. Okay, so that's an asset as well. So now to come up with your net worth, that's going to be your asset value minus the liabilities. So let's do an example here, okay? Let's say you own 5 of these properties again. They're all worth $100K each. So you have a $500,000 value, okay? Let's say your cash in the bank, you have 50K cash in the bank. Okay, so you got 500K value in the property, 50K cash in the bank. Gonna give you a total of 550,000 of value, okay? 550,000 of value. So to figure out your net worth, you need to subtract your liabilities. What are liabilities? That's gonna be your debt against the property. So in this example, let's say you have a $400,000 mortgage owed on all of these properties. $400,000 mortgage. So we're gonna subtract that, right? It's gonna be 400,000 off for liabilities. We'll just shorten that, liables, whatever, 150K. So what's that 150,000? That's gonna be your net worth in this case. Now, understand this. Your assets don't have to be appreciating assets. They don't have to be real estate. They don't have to be cash. It can be cars. It can be other things. It can be jewelry. It could be IRA accounts, stock accounts, things like that. Maybe your car is going to be a depreciating asset. So let's say all these things stay the same and you have a car that just loses value. Slowly that number will go down, potentially, okay? One of the nice things about real estate and why I buy long-term real estate is because every single month on this property, your net worth is growing. You're paying down the mortgage, or in a perfect world, your tenants are paying down your mortgage, which then raises your value of your net worth because your liability cost is going down. So this isn't a number that's going to show up on your cash flow statement or in your checking account for that matter. This is going to be held on your balance sheet, and then what you're going to end up showing to the banks, they're going to want to know your net worth. This is not something that is actual physical until you were to say sell all of this. But banks are going to want to know this, and it's going to be something valuable for you to know as well. So let's talk about ROI. What does ROI mean? What the heck is ROI? Well, it's return on investment, okay? Return on investment. Shorten that as well. So ROI is a measurement of how much money is made compared to the cost of the investment, okay? So let's go through a quick example again. We'll use the house that I've been using, single family home, okay? Let's say, for example's sake, you purchased this property for $100,000. Purchase. Let's say it was in great condition, the market was skyrocketing, all you did was turn around and you sold it for $120. Okay? Right there, you made $20,000, right? $20,000 profit. So now we want to figure out what our ROI was on that $100,000. So here's what we're going to do. Again, it's the return compared to the cost. So you take 20,000 divided by the cost of the investment, which is 100,000, gets you 0.2 or 20% ROI. Okay, this is going to be important number for you guys to know. Let's just, as an example, you're flipping this house. you're going to want to understand if the margins that you're working with are producing the ROI that you want. Is this a good enough return on your investment for you to be putting that $100,000 to work? Again, something to know and something to always keep in mind. This number, this 20% number, doesn't have to be 20%. It can be whatever you want it to be. It's going to be part of your criteria and whatever you decide to set it up at. Okay, so now let's talk about cash on cash, or COC. What is that? Certificate of compliance? Well, yeah, it could mean that as well too. But in this case, we're going to talk about cash on cash return. Okay? On cash return. I always run out of space up there, it seems to be. So this is going to be the measurement of how much money return you are making on the money that you put out. So we're going to talk about rental properties here. Let's say you put $20,000 down payment on a property. So that's cash out of your bank, okay? You've taken this $20,000, you've invested it, you've spent the money, you've put it into an investment. You want to now determine how much money are you making on that investment. Okay, so let's say your single family home rental property has netted you $2,000 for the year. $2,000 NOI. This is net operating income. We'll go over that as well at a later time, but net operating income. This is the actual dollar amount that rental property made you at the end of the year in your bank account, done, everything after all expenses. So let's figure out the return that we made on that $20,000. Simple math to calculate your cash on cash. You're going to take your income, $2,000, divided by your investment, which is $20,000, gets you 0.1 or 10% cash on cash. Okay? Again, pretty simple, but a number that you want to understand. If you're going to have cash out of your bank, out of your account, out of your hard-earned money, you're going to want to know what kind of return it's producing. If this number's too low, this isn't a property you'd want to buy, or this isn't a property you want to invest in. If this number's right, bada bing, works, fits like a glove. Let's do it. Again, this number can be subjective. It's something that you're going to determine and you're going to decide that you want to make. I can promise you that a 10% return like that is a lot of times going to be doing a lot better than any bank account ever will. It'll be doing better than most 401ks, IRAs, even the stock market. So 10% can be a good return, absolutely. Let's talk about due diligence. It's the last one I got for you today. I'll wrap it up. I feel like I've been talking for a long time. So due diligence, what does that mean? What is that? Well, due diligence is going to be a time period for when a buyer has to examine or thoroughly go through a piece of property. Okay, this is a time frame, a time period that's negotiated when you sign a contract. It can be a couple days, it can be a couple weeks, it can be however long you want it to be. It can be negotiated at the signing of the contract. The seller will agree, and you'll get to go through and do your inspections, look into all of the profit and loss statements, check the rent rolls if it's a big multifamily. Go through all of the inner workings of the property. This is the time for you to take that little house that I've been drawing the picture of and just pick it apart and learn about it, okay? During this time period, you can then either go back to the seller and either renegotiate the price. Say you found something in your due diligence period that you didn't like, that you weren't expecting, and now it says, hey, I need to renegotiate the price. You can do that. The buyer may not be, or the seller may not be willing to renegotiate it with you, but that's fine. It's still open to negotiations. You could also, let's say you found something really big. You could also go back to him and say, hey, this is just not going to work out. I found this. The numbers no longer work. This isn't something that we can fix. We're going to have to cancel out of this contract. Well, you can do that without being in default and losing your earnest money, as long as you're within that due diligence time frame. Simple fact is, due diligence is the time period where a buyer is going to fully understand what they're buying, fully, okay? So there's 6 terms I've gone over today. Let me tell you, there's many, many more. If you got any that you want some advice on or some tips on, make sure and leave them in the comments below. I'll make sure and get back to you. Maybe we can do another round of this as well. If you guys give some feedback, we'll do another round of this and we'll go over some more terminology as well. So I hope this helps. Like I said, leave some comments below and we'll see you guys next time.